Majority Leader Paul Gazelka, and we are in the shadows of Education Minnesota, the teachers union behind us. And I just wanted to create a platform where parents and advocates for parents for choice for their kids and their education would have a chance to tell you their story. We absolutely think that education choice, parents' right to choose the different kinds of education that they can have for their kids, must be elevated. Too many kids in Minneapolis and St. Paul and other places are failing, and they have no other options. Education Minnesota is a big part of why they're not getting that done. They're standing in the way of parents' ability to have other choices. And so listen to their stories. Coffee?
Hi, my name is Coffee Monska, and I'm here on behalf of myself, but also I'm a part of a group called the Exodus Movement. The website is the exodusmn.org, and I'm also a part of Take Charge, an organization that works on making a difference in Black lives through family, faith, and education. So I'm a mom of 3 boys, ages 13, 15, and 17. My 17-year-old has special needs. He's in diapers, and he speaks only in short sentences. I'm here to support school choice because education was my emancipation. I grew up living in the inner city with a mom who was on drugs. We lived in government housing. Recently I was thinking about how me and my sister and my mom all slept in one bed growing up, and I thought that was normal, but that was my life. We only had one room and one bed. Eventually my dad moved me to the suburbs, to a better neighborhood, and I was able to focus on school and education, and eventually I became a lawyer. And I really focused on education because I knew from an early age, from 6th grade, that it was my key to not repeating some of the patterns that I saw in my family. I'm here to support education savings accounts. Education savings accounts allow about half of the taxpayer allotted funds for every student to follow the student to private schools. The state money would go, but the federal and local funds would stay, so the schools would not be gutted, contrary to what some people have said. People want school choice for many reasons, but one of the huge reasons is that Minnesota has one of the largest black-white achievement gaps. According to the Minnesota Department of Education 5th grade MCA scores, the proficiency for math for white kids was 74%, but for black kids, it was only 15%. For reading, it was 86% for white kids, and for black kids, only 31%, meaning about 70% of black kids can't read at grade level in 5th grade. The numbers are similar for other kids of color. These numbers show we have a crisis, and that it's absolutely terrible. And guess what? Democrats oppose school choice. They oppose giving families of color a chance to get out of these failing schools, even though they yell the most about how much they care about black lives, equities, and disparities. And they look at this disparity and they do absolutely nothing. And this is despite the fact that black kids from the inner city who attend private schools have a much greater chance of success. About 60% graduate from Minneapolis public schools, but 99% graduate from private schools, showing that a good education can overcome socioeconomic barriers, just like it did for me. So in conclusion, I heard Governor Walz at a press conference recently on police reform and discussing people of color, and he said it's time to get out of our comfort zones. We have to consider change a moral imperative. Well, I hope, Governor Walz, that you consider this change a moral imperative that will make a difference in the lives of people of color. I hope you get out of your comfort zone and don't just vote party lines and really think about what would make a difference, and that you walk your talk. I don't know how anyone that says they care about people of color can just leave them in these failing schools when they know the schools are failing them. They know that a bad education is a direct pipeline to a life of dependence and crime, and they know they have a chance to vote on education and savings accounts that will give the very people that they say they care most about a chance to get out of these schools. How can they just say no? How can they just say no? You have to be trapped. You have to stay in these schools even though 70% of you can't read, and then go with your lawn signs and your t-shirts chanting Black Lives Matter. It's absolute hypocrisy. Every kid, no matter their race or income, deserves a right to a good education. Enough with the platitudes about black lives. It's time to do something tangible that will make a difference in their lives. Governor Walz and Democrats, I'm asking that you include education savings accounts in your final education budget. Thank you. My name is Kofi, K-O-F-I, Monska, M-O-N-T-Z-K-A. And now I'm going to introduce Benito, our next speaker.
Tough act to follow now. I'm wishing I would have gone first. My name is Benito Matias, and I have the honor of serving as the school leader at Ascension Catholic School in North Minneapolis. Been thinking a lot leading up to this day about all of the division that we're experiencing in our country, and even in the state of Minnesota, and in particular in this last year or so. But I've also taken comfort in knowing that we do have some common ground. And that common ground is that every single one of us wants a great educational experience and opportunity for all kids. This is not a zero-sum game. In fact, it's not a game at all. This is not a situation where we win and they lose, or they win and we lose. We're talking about our most precious of resources, our children. Could you imagine if you didn't have the choice to choose the grocery store that you buy your groceries at? Or you didn't have the opportunity to choose what department store you buy your clothes at? Or the opportunity to choose the salon or the barbershop, which obviously is a choice I haven't had to make in quite some time. But in all seriousness, what we're talking about is creating voice, choice, and agency for all families, not just some families, and particularly those in Black and brown communities and in communities of low income, where folks in those areas are most marginalized. There's been a lot of talk lately about justice and about equity. Here's an opportunity for us to deliver some justice, to deliver some equity. And we're asking our politicians, are you willing to stand up and vote for what's right for families and for scholars? Or are you just willing to stand up and vote for what's politically convenient for you? So we're asking you to listen to what our families are saying, to what our scholars are saying, and we're asking you to help us provide voice, choice, and agency for our families and scholars in Minnesota. Thank you for your time.
Just going to briefly introduce Mr. Rashad Turner. He'll be speaking next.
Say good morning, I believe. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rashad Turner, President and Executive Director for Minnesota Parent Union. Here today as our organization stands in solidarity and complete support for education savings accounts. We think that it is ridiculous that with our worst in nation education gaps, we have folks like Education Minnesota, Denise Specht, and teachers unions across this state blocking our children from an opportunity to access quality education. Now, I don't know how many of you all have children, but we do, and we know that these past couple of years have not been, they've been worse than the previous years. We know that COVID is not the reason that so many black children are illiterate. It's not the reason why so many Latino children are suspended from class or out in the hallways, right? We know it's because we have super bad schools, right? Everybody doesn't have the access that wealthy families have to quality education or to tutors or to things that are gonna help our children fill that gap that has been placed there by our public education system. Families want an opportunity. I've said this before, but there's not one single family that we partner with at Minnesota Parent Union that doesn't believe in the power and the value of education savings accounts. We at Minnesota Parent Union are calling on every legislator to step up. Right here in Minnesota, we've got this thing called Minnesota Nice. In a way, I think that's connected to some of the yard signs we might see, right? The yard sign I'm thinking of is the yard sign that says Black Lives Matter. The yard signs that say all are welcome here. If that doesn't start with a black child's mind, or with a brown child or indigenous child being actually welcome in a quality environment, I don't know how we're saying Black Lives Matter. I don't know how we're saying all are welcome here if the beginning of that doesn't start with quality education. A lot of folks don't like to call out Education Minnesota as the barrier to quality education, but that's the truth. It's time for Minnesotans to step up, realize that, accept that truth. I know teachers unions talk about how children are their priority. I always mess up how you're pronouncing this word, but they have a fiduciary responsibility to teachers, which means that in a court of law, the exact use of their organization is not to do what's best for our children, but is to do what's best for the adults in the building. Enough is enough of that. That approach, that playbook, has led to Minnesota having worse than nation education gaps. It's going to be up to us to stay organized, to spread the awareness, create that awareness that teachers' unions do kill our children's hopes and dreams, right? If you don't have hope, you can't dream. If you can't read, there's not much you can do, right? So if we're saying Black Lives Matter, if we're saying all are welcome here, that needs to start with education, a quality education. Minnesota has the worst disparities when it comes to people of color, right? In my opinion, those disparities start with the lack of a quality education. We're talking about economic disparities, housing disparities. Well, heck, you can't get a job, you can't complete an application if you can't read, right? So it's just like, it's time for Minnesota to step up. Very thankful for Senator Chamberlain, Chair Chamberlain, thankful to all of the families that are here, right? How many times do we need to show up to talk about how important our children are before folks like Education Minnesota, the Democrats in that Capitol, understand the importance? Our children's future shouldn't be political, right? Quality education should not be political, but as you can hear from the frustration in my voice, it is. So we have to understand that. You're on the side of children or you're on the side of the status quo. My ask is that you get on the side of children and families. Thank you.
Well, good morning, and great to follow all these speakers. Great stories, and some of them have been at it for years. They haven't been out front leading it. They have been struggling with their children in the schools for many years. I'm Senator Chamberlain, represent District 38, chair of the K-12 Education Committee in the Senate. This year, we have been focused on kids, 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 first, foremost, and always. I am here to serve the families, to serve the kids. I am not here to serve Education Minnesota. I am not here to serve the Department of Education. As Mr. Turner said, this should not be a political issue. But most clearly, it most certainly has been for a couple of reasons. This issue has received national attention. Not just our gap, but this school choice issue and how that relates to it. And school choice is really about parental choice. This status quo has been going on for too long. It is absolutely ridiculous. Education is in crisis in this state. They've been telling us all year. And I agree. It's time, as Mr. Turner said and others, to change the status quo. It is in crisis, and the only reason we can't get to we can't empower parents and give them that choice is because of Education Minnesota right behind us. We have a lot of great teachers in this state. We have great schools. But we need to change how we do it. And the only way to do that is to break the monopoly, which is Education Minnesota, and then we will break the crisis. These parents and their kids need equal opportunity, and they deserve it through school choice, parental choice. It's nothing more than that. Parental choice, and why shouldn't these parents have the same options that so many others have? So now is the time to change, and we will keep working on that through as long as we have to. So with that, we're all open to questions for anybody who spoke or anybody else in the crowd behind me. Any questions?
Senator, forgive me for not knowing, what bill was this in? Was this in the education omnibus or the taxes?
It was in the state senate. It was two separate bills. It ran separately in Senate File 1525, if I'm correct. I authored it. It has co-authors, of course, and it is currently in Senate omnibus bill that's in negotiations right now with the House. Yes. Anything else for anyone behind me?
How have those negotiations been going?
Negotiations are ongoing and we're making progress.
Where is the sign of that progress?
Where is the sign of the progress? You'll know soon.
How soon?
Very soon.
Tomorrow?
Very soon.
This is just spreadsheet or spreadsheet and billing?
Very soon you will know what we have.
Is this education savings accounts going to be in? This
The only
spreadsheet?
way education savings account is not in the final bill is if the governor or the House Democrats, Chair Davney, Chair Richardson come out here in front of all you and say, we're taking it out. So to get that, the only way that comes out of our bill. So if they come out here and say, there's no way we can do this. So I would ask you that you ask them to make that announcement if they don't want it in, because it's staying in until they come out here and tell you it's out. They have to own this, they have to know it, they have to accept it. They can no longer just sit behind the doors and wait for Education Minnesota to attack all of us in social media. They will have to come out here, face you, face these parents and thousands of others, and tell them, you know, we just can't do this. So it's going to be up to them to pull it out. And I ask you to stay on them for that. Anything else? Good? You sure you have no questions for our great parents? I will say one more thing in case it has been remembered or recalled, but this polling has been consistent over the years. 74% of Hispanic families support this. 70% of African American families support this.
Say, I got a question.
Yes.
You been talking about unemployment, and I like what you're saying, but I want to get more in depth on that. How you gonna help us figure out that's unemployed right now?
Well, we can certainly talk about that when we're done this conference, but stay there. We'll chat with you, okay? So, with that said, so the polling 74-70, and that's been consistent overall. So I challenge the Democrats in the House and the governor to come out here and say, we're going to take it out. So it stays in intelligence. Yes?
Is it true that there are possibly 30 other states in our country that have some sort of school choice for their families?
There's about 30 other states, give or take, that have some form of parental choice in one form or another. There's about 7 states that have full ESAs. 2 of them just passed. I think it was Tennessee and one of the Carolinas. 2 more just passed. So yes, it is true. All right, that's it. And you can chat with these people when you're done.
Everything for education.
Education. All right, thank you very much.